Hey, what is going on, everyone? In today's video, I'll tell you, it's not a Cap Sam video. I know I've been talking a lot about him, and he is in the background as the featured character. He always seems to be there when I'm making a video. Anyways, this video is not about Cap Sam, but it is about blue ISOs. Now, I have been doing a lot of testing, and let me tell you, it's quite challenging to do so, especially regarding Gamora and Nebula's interaction, and whether or not their blue ISO level 3s are actually working. Now, in regards to this is specifically the Striker 3 ISO that I've applied to Gamora. I've had to do a lot of testing, and it is very hard because Gamora is so powerful that oftentimes most enemies are dead before you even get a chance to do the follow-up attack, and we'll talk exactly about what I mean about this. And I did film some footage. We're going to go back and take a look at some of this and try to figure out whether or not the Striker 3 is working properly. If you've watched some of my videos in the past, I mentioned that basically in order to have Striker 3 work, you need someone with Skirmisher Blue 3, because you can't actually have 2 vulnerability, which I think you need for Striker 3 in order for that to work. So that's why you need to get Nebula to Blue 3 before you get anyone else up. But we're going to talk about this more once we get started. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. Okay, so to really get started with what the hell I'm talking about, we need to look at Gamora. So specifically, we're looking at the blue Striker 3 and blue Skirmisher 3 with regards to some of these interactions. So let's take a quick look here. If you guys are unfamiliar, you take a look at Striker, open that up, and you see that, just to recap, by the way, you know, green Striker, that does a follow-up attack. We knew this, you know, that's from level 5, level 3, you know, where you get 100% on primary hit. If the target is vulnerable, make an ISO-8 attack at 100% damage, then clear when vulnerable. This is green Striker. We know this already. This attack is based on the character's basic. So moving down to tier 2, 3, and that's where I'm at right now. So I finally got this upgrade. On primary hit, if the target has 2 or more vulnerable, deal 5% of this character's max health to the primary target. And that's what we're trying to figure out in this video today, because 5% of Gamora's max health is quite a bit. Now, this depends on whether or not you're running Adam Warlock alongside her or not, but if you are, that is a lot of, and I have this, I'm gonna show you guys this later, but basically 5% of Gamora's hit points without Adam Warlock, we can see that already based on her stats here, is 612,000. So that's roughly about 31,000 is 5% of that without Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock gives a plus 30% health passive in battle, which would bump her hit points. I did the math, you know, almost 800,000, rounding up, 796, somewhere around that. So 5% of her hit points with Adam Warlock is closer to an extra 40,000 blue Striker hits. So this should be pretty noticeable in combat if this was working or not. So that's what we're actually trying to figure out. Now, in order to get 2 or more vulnerable for that to even work anyways, you need Gamora, so you need Nebula. So that's why we're going to take a very quick look at Nebula here. She is quite powerful. Where is she? She's really high up there on my list, I thought, over here. And so we need blue Skirmisher 3. Now, I had her on Raider temporarily because I was testing stuff out between her being on Raider and Skirmisher. But basically, when you have blue Skirmisher 3, on primary hit, apply 2 vulnerable. This is really important in order to get this to trigger. So there is a couple of things that I'm curious about now. So one is, does it work as intended? We know that there's been a lot of issues with regards to characters not working as intended, a lot of shit being broken, Cap Sam being what I've been railing on about lately. But the other thing is part of the text. Now, we know that the text works in order of operations from the top down. At least that's how we know from the game. So on primary hit, so after this ISO bonus attack, clear 1 vulnerable. So what I'm concerned about here is whether or not, if it goes all the way from the top to the bottom, you're getting 2 vulnerabilities from Nebula's assist. So you go in, you attack with Gamora, Nebula comes in and assists, you get the 2 vulnerable, then she does the follow-up with the Striker ISO attack, and then this would clear 1 vulnerable, but then maybe you don't have the 2 vulnerable needed for the primary hit for the 5% of this character's max health. Now, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've done a lot of testing, and we're going to go over the gameplay, and we're going to slow it down, where I did this And I can't tell 100% if this damage is being added, because like I said, if you're not using Adam Warlock, it'd be roughly around 30,000. Now, I'm a maxed out Gamora, 7 yellow, 7 red, so her hit points into damage should be approximately 30 to 40,000 extra damage, whether or not you're using her with Adam Warlock or without. A lot of the testing is with Adam Warlock, so realistically for her hit points, it should be an extra 40,000 damage on top of what she's already doing. And some of the gameplay really makes me question whether or not that 40k is actually being added on, even if you consider it being mitigated by things like defense up, blocking, and things like this. I feel like I should notice a significant difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to test with Nebula's Skirmisher 3 and then without it. We're also using her as a Raider just because that doesn't apply to vulnerability, and in some cases I've actually used Yo-Yo with 4 instead of Adam Warlock. We're using Yo-Yo because she's one of the fastest characters in the game that can help me apply vulnerability early on into battle. So we're going to be doing a couple of tests, and we're going to go through that together, and it makes me wonder if this isn't working properly. And let's say hypothetically to what I said before, you lose a vulnerable, and then you don't have the 2 vulnerable anymore to do this 5%, this would be pretty effed up. Because there's only one way, I think, to get more than 2 vulnerables. And interestingly, that is, I believe, Raider. I believe you have to get this, possibly, Tier 2 Level 5 Raider. And you would, on an active ability crit, you would apply 2 vulnerable up to a maximum of 5. So hypothetically, you could get to a vulnerability of 5. Now, this is pretty effed up, because that means that you would need Tier 2 Level 5 Raider in order to activate Tier 2 Striker 3. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I don't know. It just seems a bit fishy and a bit wonky, and once we go over the video clips and the gameplay, we'll have to decide whether or not we need further testing or what's going on. So I just wanted to bring this to your guys' attention because, you know, I just recently leveled up Gamora to Blue Striker 3, and I'm wondering, was it worth it or did I just waste all my time? So let's jump on over to the gameplay. Okay, so we're going to start things off very easy with the Striker 3 and Skirmisher 3 interactions. This is from some arena matches that I took some gameplay footage of, and we're going to watch this again slowly. So we're going to start off with the Striker 3, Skirmisher 3, and then after this we're going to take a look at basically what it should do with 1 vulnerability. So this is going to be with 2 vulnerabilities with the Striker 3, and we're going to compare this damage to other things later on. So let's go and take a look. Now, I recorded this in such a way that you don't have to watch all the dumb footage. This is basically specifically the hits that I apply here. So you can see that basically I go in for the ult, because I do still want to win my arena matches, but then we can see the follow-up attack on Moondragon, who does have defense up, by the way. So all of these does have that in mind. And if we slow it down here, you can see, boom, hits for 62.3k, 62.4k with defense up. So let's keep that in mind. And we'll do a summary at the very end for all of the damage it hits. So we're going to skip ahead, and we're going to move to the next one. I have a few of them back to back. Do skip ahead here till we get to the next attack. And I think the second attack here is against Phyla-Vell, I'm pretty sure here. Once we clear the evades, that's also really important. Trying to get this tested was a bit challenging, so I think we go in with the basic. I think we do. Yep. So here we go. So we start the swings off. We get obviously the Nebula follow up here, and so we get the swing, and it does about 50k. You know, 50k rounded up. So that is to be expected against Phyla-Vell, who has a very high base stat total. So we had 62.3k against Moondragon and 50k against Phyla-Vell. You know, I would expect Moondragon's armor to be lower than Phyla-Vell. Phyla-Vell has some very high base stats, so that's not really a big issue. And so we're going to jump ahead here. This is attack number 3 here, and this is against Adam Warlock. And then we have the basic again. We clear the deflex, so he still has defense up. Almost everyone that gets hit has defense up, so it kind of has the same sort of base total. Kind of you'll have the same range sort of here, and you see 54.6k against Adam Warlock with defense up. And I think we do actually get another swing at Gamora. Do we? Did I think I filmed that. Is that what we're gonna see here? Pretty sure that's what I have here. So we do have some swings against Gamora. Now Gamora does take more damage than all of the other characters so far. And what's interesting is that she does have defense up still. I did double check because it seemed like she was taking up a lot of damage. I took a look after that. So she took 108k, you might have seen that there, which was the most that we've seen so far of all of the hits. So something like that seems like perhaps that could have the Striker 3 added on top. But some of the other damages are so low that, you know, it really doesn't seem like it would have that, you know, what, 30 to 40k increase on top of that. Even if that was mitigated slightly, that would still be about, you know, at least an extra 20k, you know, against the defense up, I would say. So the numbers just seem pretty low. Gamora seems a little bit high, so it's kind of hard to say here. I think I double checked. I tried to look at her buffs to make sure that she did have defense up. And so yeah, there's a whole slew of stuff on her, but you see the defense up for 1 turn here. So just to confirm, I was just curious about that. And then we get a 4th arena attack here, and this is also against Gamora with a defense up. I always double check to see what's there. And so we do a couple of swings here, and then we get the follow-up with Nebula, and then we get the swing. So you can see how that she does have 2 vulnerables, just to be clear there. And we get that. Now, 77.8k, also it was blocked. So that's a 25% damage reduction. I would say, not counting the block, that would probably also be close to about 100k. Which is very similar to the last attempt against Gamora, so she does seem to take a little bit more damage than the other characters. And then we have another one on this as well. We attack Adam Warlock this time here, and we do the special because I think I didn't want to risk killing him or something. And so again, what's important there is that he also takes, he has a defense up, and he takes a total of, let's find out. Once all the interactions, of course, all of the counterattacks at one time's super slow. There we go. So 100k against Adam Warlock with defense up, which is interesting because last time I hit Adam Warlock, it did 54.6k. So I don't know why all of a sudden it does more. She did not have offense up, as far as I'm aware, so I'm not sure why it did that much damage. Now we do another swing against Gamora here. She also has defense up. And this time we do 108k. So a lot of this seems consistent-ish with the amount of damage that we've been doing against Gamora specifically. Adam Warlock seems to vary. We got 100k on the last one, and then we had like 55 on the one before that. So I'm not sure if this is happening all the time or not. It seems like when you reach about the 100k range for the Striker hit, that seems like maybe that might be applying the Striker 3 attack, but all the other hits is very confusing as to whether or not that's actually being applied consistently or not. And then we have another one here against Phi-Level, and we get the follow-up, and that's with defense up, of course, and that does 52k. 51.9, 52k. And so that's also pretty consistent with the previous attacks against Phi-Level, which did about 50k. So that's not too much different there. We do one more, I think. We do, if I jump ahead, I think a little bit, there's an attack here against Adam Warlock here. This time, though, she has offense up, Gamora has offense up, but it is against a defense up, because he's going to pick that defense up here in a second, I'm pretty sure. He gets some buffs because of his passive. Yeah, so he has defense up and deflect, actually. And this does 75. It didn't say blocked, though, so I'm a bit confused there. However, if we take into account 25% from a block, that's roughly about 100k that it would have done normally, which, again, is consistent with some of the previous damage against Adam Warlock, other than the one attack that did about, what was it, 50k. So that's all of my arena testing there. What we're going to do next is we're going to open up what I have is my testing that I have in Blitz. This one here, though, this is specifically, now you'll see I'm running Yo-Yo. So there's 2 things I want to point out here. One, I'm not running a full Infinity Watch team. So what this does mean is that Gamora is losing 15% piercing damage for not having Adam Warlock on the field. He's also not, she's also not getting the health that Adam Warlock would provide. Therefore, her ISO, well, actually that part doesn't matter because we're not testing the Striker 3. We're testing just regular Striker, because we're only doing it with Yo-Yo applying the vulnerability, which is just one vulnerability. So we're trying to test the damage without that. But she is going to lose 15% piercing on her passive. I'm not sure how much that equates to in terms of her overall damage, but we're going to keep that in mind when we do the follow-up ISO attacks. So, to get started here. Now, this is against another Gamora here. I forget who I actually end up hitting. I have to double check here. I think I do it against Gamora. And so I do the basic. I don't want to do too much damage to some of these characters. So I'm just really just trying to apply the vulnerability here. And so we have Gamora. And of course, it takes forever for her animation at 1x. My apologies, guys. And we do this, and here's the special. Does that much damage, and we get the follow-up. Actually, we get the Nebula Assist that doesn't kill her. Thankfully, it was so close. And we get the Striker attack, and that does 120k. So, a few things to note there is, as far as I'm aware, she did not have defense up because she didn't have Phyla-Vell or anyone on the field. So that did a fair bit of damage, actually. And so if she had defense up, my guess is that would have done something around 80 to 90k damage instead of the 120. So that might have been a little bit more consistent than with the 100k that we saw previously. But again, this is without the Striker 3 attack. This is just basically a green ISO attack. Consider it that way, because it's just the regular ISO attack, not the 5% of her max HP added on. It's just that. So we're going to jump ahead to the next one, which I believe is against Doc Ock. Now he does block, so we'll see that part here. Kind of jumping ahead a little bit here. So we got the vulnerability, we got Gamora, and here, so we do the special again. I don't want to kill him because it's very easy to kill people with Gamora. And we get the follow-up attack here with Gamora, and she does kill him. Oh no, yes, with the bleed. 75.7 thousand. Now, I'm pretty sure he blocked. So with the reduction, that would have been about 25% reduction. And if you increase that, that would have been about 95, 100k, something like that, I believe. So that's fairly consistent. But again, once again, you know, that's not included the Striker 3, the blue 3 extra HP damage. So it feels like that's also still pretty high. Or it feels like maybe the Striker 3 attacks from the Infinity Watch, what we tested earlier, seem a bit low. I'm not sure. So here we are again. This is against Silver Surfer here. Now, he does have defense up. So this is more in line as to what we would see, I guess, against Infinity Watch. And there you go. See, 62.7k. So that's pretty interesting, because that's basically the same amount of damage that she did against Phyla-Vell, other members of the Infinity Watch in my arena, with the blue ISO 3, with the Striker 3, with the 2 vulnerability. This is just with 1 vulnerability. So I find it strange that the damage just seems to be not much different. It should be noticeably different with the blue Striker 3 attack. Okay? So that's kind of interesting. Now we're going to jump ahead a little bit again. I don't think I get anything else off here. So we're doing against the Black Order. Now, I go to attack Cull because he's the more beefy one. I believe I got this off, don't I? Against Cull Obsidian. So we do some stuff here. Got to flip through this a little bit here. There we go. So we got the Empowered. We're going in with the basic against Cull Obsidian. And again, we kind of just have to let the attacks go off. Get some counterattack, I think, here. And Gamora does the follow-up Striker for 61,931. So about 62k. Okay. So again, very consistent with what it does against Silver Surfer, what it did earlier against Silver Surfer. Now we jump ahead to another one where I do another Black Order. Interestingly, on a side note, this Cull Obsidian actually has the exact same power as the previous one. Not sure how that ended up happening, because basically, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. The damage ends up being exactly the same. Now that's kind of funny. So the follow-up attack here, we're going to see 61,931 again. Different match, same damage. So that's kind of interesting. Also, that the damage seems to be consistent on that front. But what we should have seen, you know, when we're going up against on the blue Striker 3 attacks, it should be significantly stronger, and I'm just not seeing it. Okay, and we have one last one here, I think. Actually, it's at the very end. I kind of screwed this up in the recording, so if you notice here, it's just right at the end here. So I recorded this really badly. Anyways, I did a special for Gamora, and I did some damage here, and what you're seeing now is the follow-up against just a Thanos. So this is a T15 Thanos. You're going to see the follow-up attack. I do have offense up, though, and he does not have defense down, defense up. So that did 160k. So that's a lot. But I do have offense up. So if you were to subtract 50% damage, that would be more in line with about 100k or so. So I just wanted to put that out there. But it's not seeing like it's much different. I can't really see a significant difference when we go back over to the arena footage. You know, I'm not gonna play it again because you already saw it. But basically, this stuff over here, when we were going up against the Infinity Watch, it should have been a significant improvement on the damage, and we just never saw it here. So I don't know what's going on. Just to recap also. So in the previous arena attacks, we saw 62.3k against a Moondragon, 50k against a Phyla-Vell, 55 against Adam Warlock, 78 against Gamora with defense up, 100 against Adam Warlock with defense up, and then another 52k against Phyla-Vell, and a 75k against Adam Warlock with a deflect. I just don't know. Like, I feel that, especially with this Striker 3 setup, pointing the wrong way, that way, with the Striker 3 setup, we should be seeing, with the hit points being increased with Adam Warlock on the team, the 5 of them, it should be at least a 40k damage increase. Now again, that could be mitigatable damage, therefore with the defense up, it's not actually a 40k flat, it's more like a 20 or 30k damage increase, but regardless, we should be seeing a significant large increase of damage on this than it was earlier with the Blitz testing, with Yo-Yo, with 1 vulnerability. I don't know what's going on, I don't know if it's consistent, and it just seems really wonky to me. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I know this is not a consensus, I don't think. Just because I've done some testing, I don't think that's automatically that it's wrong. But knowing that they've done a lot of mistakes in the past, things have not been super clear, I wouldn't be surprised or put it past them if this is actually how it is. And it is kind of wonky, so I'm not sure. I encourage all of you to do some further testing. I'm not sure at this point I would recommend people to pick up Gamora Blue Striker 3. I think you should hold off until we get some further clarifications, especially as they release more of the blue ISOs down the line. I think it would be absolutely ridiculous if you need to have a Blue Raider 5 that I suggested earlier in order to actually trigger this Blue Striker 3. That sounds absolutely bonkers. So I think Nebula is a safe bet, because I still like the idea of having 2 vulnerabilities, because I think that does increase the amount of damage in which they take based on how many vulnerabilities they have. However, I just don't know if the interaction is working properly with Gamora, so don't do Striker on the other characters at this point unless you just want it for the raw stats, but I don't know if the actual Blue Striker 3 is working. And so that's the end of the video, guys. Let me know if you think I'm crazy or if I'm nuts. If I'm nuts, that's fine. You know, people have called me that before, but I just wanted to do this just to really test to see whether or not we're getting screwed over or not, because we have been screwed over in the past, so I would not be surprised if this happened again. So until next time, guys, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.